Welcome to today's KM World webinar, brought to you by Accenture Applied Intelligence, Northern Light Group, and Guru. I'm Mary D. Ojala, Conference Program Director, Information Today, Inc. I will be the moderator for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled The Top Trends in KM for 2019. Now, before we get started, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session, so if you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the Submit button. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been selected during the show, you will receive an email response to it within a few days. And if you would like a copy of the presentation, you can download a PDF from the resource icon on the console once the event is archived. And now to introduce our speakers for today. Cameron Kahn, Managing Director of Search and Content Analytics, Accenture Applied Intelligence. David Cease, Chief Executive Officer, Northern Light Group. Sunny Manavanan, VP of Marketing, Guru. To review the speakers' bios, please click on the arrow under the speaker's photo. And now let's move into today's presentation. So let me welcome Cameron Kahn, Managing Director of Search and Content Analytics, Accenture Applied Intelligence. Cameron?
Thank you, Mary D. Pleasure to be on this conference today. As Mary D said, my name's Cameron Kahn and I'm a Managing Director here at Accenture. And today I'd like to talk about knowledge management and how AI is being used in the knowledge management world. Before we talk specifically about knowledge management, I really like to just set the scene by talking about what we mean by AI. As I'm sure many of you have seen, there are many different definitions of artificial intelligence, and it can get quite confusing. But here at Accenture, we like to break the artificial intelligence world into two main areas. One is what we call pure AI, and that's the AI that you possibly see in science fiction. And that's where we're trying to mimic and mirror all human intelligence. I found an interesting article not long ago that talks about pure AI, and this particular group of people did a survey and came up with the following results. And the interesting thing for me is that pure AI really is nowhere near, and we have about a 50% chance of achieving the replication of all human labor in about 125 years. So that's not really what we're talking about today. And I'm sure that there are many people working on pure AI, but it has a long way to go. What we're talking about is what we call pragmatic or practical AI, where we're using a combination of technologies that allow us to do things that are much, much narrower in scope, but allow us to probably do it better than, or faster at least, than humans can actually achieve those tasks. So it's really the pragmatic AI that we're focused on and that we're going to be talking about as it applies to knowledge management. So for us, AI is not just one technology. It's really a combination of things that, when put together, achieve some of those pragmatic or practical AI capabilities. And so on the left-hand side of this chart, you'll see that there are technologies that work well with data. So we've got deep learning, search, which is our background, natural language processing, and then you've got the physical side of things where you've got sensors, you've got robots in a narrow scope, and when you put those things together, you can start to achieve what we consider to be practical AI. So the important thing is not just one technology, it's a combination of things, and you'll see some examples here in my presentation of things that we've done using these technologies. So my role here at Accenture is really to bring what we call search and content analytics to our customers at Accenture. And we came to Accenture through the acquisition of a company called Search Technologies, of which I was the founder and CEO. And today, our job is to really bring our capabilities to the wider Accenture. And what we do is we focus mainly on unstructured content, but we're obviously being dragged into the structured world as well. But we're combining search, machine learning, and NLP to create the kinds of AI results that we're looking for. So that's the role of my organization within Accenture. We've been here about 18 months, and we've seen that we've made a huge difference to some very large customers that I'll talk a little bit about. So how do we define unstructured content? Well, it's as you'd imagine. It's everything that's not really that in tabular form. We've got images, we've got paper documents that are still being scanned and OCR'd in many of our customers, video, increasingly audio, but other kinds of electronic data, email, file share information, SharePoint, everything that really is in the unstructured world is representing about 80% of content that we see in any given customer. But it's typically not used in the analytics world. So what we're trying to do, and have been for many years, is bring that unstructured content into the conversation when analytics is talked about. Now, we've combined these technologies in many different areas, and we've not focused on one particular industry or one particular use case, because all of those technologies are quite horizontal. And so over the years, we've built applications that are quite diverse. You've got enterprise and government portals and enterprise data lakes, which fall largely in the area of knowledge management. And I'll give you an example of how we're using those technologies here at Accenture. But we've also built other applications in the e-commerce world where we've built recommendations engines. We've built applications in the precision medicine world where we've worked with a cancer hospital to help doctors get access to the analytics that they need from an enormous amount of genome data. We're building storage analytics tools. That's a tool that will enable us to use machine learning and natural language processing to see where we have duplicate documents or near duplicate documents so we can reduce the storage for a particular customer, and search and match in the recruiting space that I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail. So we can build a whole host of different use cases from the same set of unstructured data using these technologies. So what we're finding is that most of our customers feel that traditional search is not enough. Most people have an enterprise search implementation, but they're looking to go beyond that. They're looking to fuel it now with natural language processing and machine learning, and be able to do some of the things with their own content that they haven't been able to do before. And as I said, I'll talk to you about how we're doing that here at Accenture. So I think that this quote from Gartner is a very relevant quote, which basically says that people are going to want to be their systems to be more proactive and push information to them instinctively rather than go out and find it. And it's these technologies that I'm talking about that will enable us to do that. So most people using search today will have to evolve and start to use other technologies to make their search smarter and more cognitive, which means that search, being a big component of knowledge management, will also need to evolve. So I want to talk a little bit at a practical level about how machine learning and natural language processing can actually improve search. And to do that, I want to use an example that we have implemented a number of times now with recruiting customers. We've worked with some of the largest recruiting customers in the world, and some of these companies are doing $20 billion plus in revenue by matching candidates to jobs and placing people in jobs. And so search has always been a critical component of their applications in order for them to do that. When we first started working with these customers, we were implementing good search solutions, and many of them were using an old system called FAST that was acquired by Microsoft, and we helped them implement that on the left-hand side of this chart. As time went on, we would improve that capability by adding navigation and other kinds of user interfaces that were more intuitive. But as in the last few years, what we started to do is use NLP and machine learning to take it one step higher. And what we've done is we've built systems that are very customized, that allow these companies to match jobs automatically to candidates. And so instead of a recruiter coming in today and searching for the candidates that they need for any given job, the system itself will say, here are the top 5 candidates based on the patterns that we have seen in the resumes. And obviously it takes some time to train the system to do that, but after it has been trained, it's become a very effective way for people to match candidates faster to jobs, which is the key thing in the recruitment space. So that's just one example of how a search system has evolved from being just your reactive, type in your query and get your results, to proactive, here are the top 5 candidates for the job that you're looking for. We're doing it in many different areas. Obviously, the recruitment space is ripe for a AI type implementation, but we're also working with some large oil and gas companies. And the interesting thing for them is that they have historical data that is largely unstructured. Some of it is basically on paper. And what we've been doing is scanning and OCRing the information that they have, because even though it goes back 100 years, it's still relevant today, because geology doesn't change a lot in 100 years. And what we're doing now is we're using OCR and natural language processing to extract the information from the scanned documents, so we can then do a variety of analytics on them. We're using knowledge graphs, we're using search obviously, and we're using a variety of other techniques to allow them to learn more from what has happened historically so that they can be more efficient going forward. One of the tools that we're building to allow us to do that is an application that we're calling SAGA. It's a natural language processing toolkit that we'll be releasing fairly soon. And what SAGA allows us to do, really in an intuitive way, is to allow business users to interact with the data, like the example you just saw, and create rules by themselves. So there's some human interaction, but we're also using machine learning to help create some metadata on top of the unstructured content. Once we've created that through SAGA, we're able to do a number of things, as I said before: build knowledge graphs, do analytics, use them in search systems, and even build question and answer systems similar to Siri and Alexa. So SAGA is a key component of our product set that allows us to do the kind of things that we want to do in AI. So let me talk very, very briefly about knowledge management at Accenture and give you an idea of the kinds of things we're doing here. First of all, the scale of Accenture is a very interesting problem when it comes to knowledge management. We've got 459,000 employees and growing. We're in 53 countries. There's about 5,000 customers. And on the knowledge side of this chart, there's a large number of searches that are being performed, and the number of data sources is varied and many. And so we're having to index a lot of documents every day. Accenture, being a consulting company, is very, very reliant on the knowledge that's contained within the organization, not just on in the documents that we own, but also with the people that are employed at Accenture. So it's a huge undertaking to build a knowledge management system. So what we have been doing to help Accenture improve things is to bring in some AI capabilities. So a couple of things that are interesting in the site is that we have added natural language processing to do auto tagging, so that we can end up creating a lot more metadata and get more relevancy from the documents we're looking for. So the auto tagging is somewhat user generated, but we're also using machine learning to help automatically create tags for entities from the documents. On the recommendation side, again, we're using NLP and machine learning to be able to recommend content to users. If you viewed these documents, you might like to see some other documents. And then finally, we've implemented a connector. That's a people connector. So if you are looking for a particular topic, we've used, again, machine learning and NLP to allow you to connect to other people that may well have the expertise that you're looking for. So this has all gone live in the last 8 months or so, and it's been a huge success here at Accenture. You know, the tags that are user-generated are accepted 80% of the time, but the auto-tagging is also extremely successful, and the recommendations engine has been rolled out very, very successfully, and that's now going to be implemented Accenture-wide. So we're constantly looking for how we can apply the technologies that we feel create AI in knowledge management here at Accenture. Not just Accenture, by the way, across many other customers, but of course we want to eat our own dog food and make sure that we are doing the latest and greatest things on our own site before we start implementing it others. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, and I will look for questions at the end of these sessions, and I'll aim to answer those at the right time. So thank you very much for your attention. Look forward to speaking to you.
Fascinating. Thank you, Cameron. And now let me welcome David Cease, Chief Executive Officer, Northern Light Group. David.
Thank you, Mary Dee. For those of you who do not know who Northern Light is, we are headquartered in Boston. We're in a single business, which is providing machine learning-powered knowledge management systems for market research and competitive intelligence. Across our client base today, we have 250,000 user accounts, so we see a tremendous amount of work every day in the market research and competitive intelligence space. We process 100 million research documents a year, indexing them for search and applying our machine learning technology to them. And if you add up the amount of money spent by our clients on their research, it comes out to be several $billion a year in research that we are housing in our data centers. I'd like to start by observing that from a knowledge management perspective, we're on the verge of a tipping point. The nature of the workforce is changing dramatically, particularly because of the millennial generation pouring into the workforce. We finished last year with about 35% of the workforce as millennials. Pew Research projects that'll be 76% in 2025. If we just interpolate the trend between those 2 points, sometimes at some point in the year 2020, over half of the workforce will become millennials. So we're only 18 months away, maybe less than that, from this very significant tipping point when the torch is passed from the Boomers and the Xers to the millennials. If one is designing a knowledge management system today and for deployment later in 2018 or 2019, that knowledge management system will be used more by millennials over its life than by any other generation. So what are millennials like? I went to a popular web search engine and started to query millennials are, and the search engine came back to me with some suggestions. Millennials are lazy. Millennials are spoiled. They are failing. They are incompetent. It has certainly been a hobby of older generations to criticize younger generations for thousands of years. Indeed, the Boomers and the Xers do have a view that millennials are less skilled at some areas of work than we were when we were their age or are now. And if it is true, if any of these things are true, it's really important to think about the implications for knowledge management systems. Northern Light decided to look into this, and we started studying how millennials work, how they gather information, and what we found was, contrary to the myth, millennials are extremely efficient information gatherers, especially when the tools are right and designed for their cognitive style. So let's think for a moment about how millennials work. So first of all, they use a lot of media platforms, and they switch their attention between them frequently. One study said 27 times per hour is the number of times millennials switch media platforms, and that they rely on recommendations of colleagues more than on personal research. They also evaluate the quality of information source as an inverse relationship to how much time is required to obtain the information from that source. That was by a study by a professor at Rider University. So when you're designing that power search form, think about that one for a moment. The quality of information is an inverse relationship to how much time is required to obtain it. They put an emphasis on speed, ease and efficiency. I want it fast and I want it now, according to a study by BCG. And 7 out of 10 use curated sources for subjects that might be considered practical, such as information relating to their careers. That's from University of Chicago study. So curated sources, recommendations of colleagues rather than personal research, and really fast. The implications for that for knowledge management are profound. So 10 years ago, it was all about search. The task was to assemble the content. That was hard enough, especially if you had 10 or 20 external market research or competitive intelligence or technology research sources you were subscribing to. Apply excellent search to it, and generate good search results. And we were sort of done. And this was the whole task. And it was a personal research world where the researchers were using the search result to find the information that they needed, and so the job was to get those good search results to them. But then, with the arrival of the millennials, all that changes. We still have to aggregate the content. We still have to put great search against it. Now we also put machine learning and analytics against it as well. We still have to generate great search results. And in some cases, we are done there. Power users and older users, information center professionals, market research professionals will still perhaps be done when they get those excellent search results. But more and more often today, the search results are supporting a human being or a machine who is extracting and curating and organizing insights and then publishing them in a variety of ways to large audiences within the companies. Strategic dashboards on topics, newsletters, personal dashboards, RSS feeds, the machine learning products I'm going to talk about, insights reports and recommendations. All of these constitute what we call an insight distribution ecosystem. Used to be about this, and now it's about this. Now, just to illustrate how important the insight distribution ecosystem is in knowledge management, here's a case study. Northern Light client in the financial services industry had this long-term downward trend in the number of market intelligence reports being consumed from their knowledge management system. In May of a particular year, they deployed a new knowledge management system that was heavily used, strategic dashboards, to present a browse-to-content opportunity to their users. And if you go out 1 year, they have tripled the amount of market research being downloaded from the knowledge management systems. So they're paying the same amount for the research here as they were here. It's just 3 times more impactful on the business. Here's another case study. That's from 2018, January of 2018. Northern Light client in the information technology business, one of the top 5 companies in information technology, a household name. Had a very successful market intelligence portal, downloading 10,000 documents a month, which is very, very good. They started a newsletter program in January, going to the worldwide marketing staff every day of last year, and you can see they tripled in 1 month the amount of documents being downloaded from their knowledge management system. Just extraordinary success. So it's all about curating the insights and distributing them. And many of our clients who are coming to us for the first time really don't appreciate that. I went back and looked at the last 10 RFPs we responded to from companies that had not received a demo or proposal from Northern Light before writing their RFPs. So they did not hear this speech that we always give about the insight distribution ecosystem. The median number of questions in those 10 RFPs about search were 14. The median number of questions about insight and content distribution tools, 0. So the requirement writers for these RFPs just really didn't understand where the priority lies. It's about curating the insights and distributing it, not about providing search. So how does search fit into this? So this sort of browse to content model. And the traditional search process really doesn't. the way the traditional search process works is the user runs a query, they examine the little snippets of text on each document, they pick a document and download it, scan it, and then they return to the search result and repeat until they're out of time. On average, users only download one document per search query, meaning that they miss the insights from all the other documents on their search result, which is a real shame because it means a lot of the knowledge they could have gained, they don't. And our users are telling us how much they hate the search process, especially the younger ones. Questions they ask is, why do I have to consider all those documents on the search result? Why can't the machine just read them for me and tell me what it finds it's important to know? And why do I have to search at all? Why can't the machine just monitor the content and tell me when there's something new that I should know about? So machine learning really makes this possible. It is now possible to automatically summarize the important ideas in all the documents across the search result. And we call that the insights report. When you run a query, on the right-hand side, the machine, if you will, conceptually, reads the documents on the left-hand side and writes a report on what it finds that it thinks is important. It fundamentally changes everything in the search process. Instead of going through the traditional search results, just read the report. And the average user is going to know far more about the research topic if they read the insights report than if they engage in the traditional method of examining search results. It's just read the report. You'll just know more because the report is built off of the ideas and the insights that are in all of the documents that are on the search result. Power users can also benefit from it because they sort of usually start with a lay of the land kind of analysis. What are the important issues I want to drill into? And just read the report, and you will immediately learn what is important for you to go back to the traditional search results and then pick documents and really drill into them. And machine learning is using these techniques is bringing search into the browse to content era. You run the query and then you read the report. That's browse. We've applied this technology and this approach to many different types of content, all textual document types, Word, PowerPoint, etc., business and technology news, syndicated market research, primary market research, technical journals and articles, conference presentations. It works for all of them. The other item we were hearing from our users is we don't want to have to search at all. Why can't the machine monitor the content flow and just let me know what it finds? We call that the recommended reading list. And basically each user gets a smart search assistant working for them around the clock. We like to ask the question, what if Siri and Alexa could help you with your professional work instead of just helping you find a nearby pizza restaurant? And that using machine learning, that becomes possible. We can build a topic model for every user based on the documents they consume, really deeply understand what that user is concerned about, then go to the content flow, monitor it for the user, and reach out to the user with new content recommendations. We have 250,000 users. We have 250,000 machine learning models helping users find content based on their interest. So in conclusion, I'd like to suggest that we are approaching the end of search. Soon we will be in the era when users will no longer search for information. Search is evolving to have an in-depth understanding of the search material. And using machine learning, search is now able to distinguish not just what is relevant to a search query, but also what is important for the user to know. The idea of importance is really key here. When we write the insights report, we weight all of the documents against one another, all of the sentences, all of the ideas. They compete for a position on the report, and the important ones get into the insights report. And that is a breakthrough from a search perspective, not just what is relevant, but what is important. And then we can summarize those important insights in all of the documents on the search result for the user. And by watching the user's behavior, learn what they care about and proactively provide them with the information that they need without them having to ask for it. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mary Dee.
Thank you, David. That's great. And now let me welcome Sunny Manivasan, VP of Marketing, Guru. So Sunny, take it away.
Thank you so much, Mary Dee. And hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to talk to you about the top 3 trends that we see in knowledge management from our perspective at Guru. And again, I'm Sunny Manivanan, Vice President of Marketing. Before I take you into the top 3 trends, let me just share with you a little bit about our company, how we got started, and where we are today. Guru at a glance. So our early team, our founders, came from a company called Boomi, which was acquired by Dell in 2010. And Boomi was responsible for integrations across all of these new software, cloud-based software applications that were really coming on in the early 2000s. And once they got to Dell, they faced a whole set of new problems around knowledge management. And the team, especially Rick, who's our CEO, and Mitchell, who's our CTO, felt that we could all be more productive if we could access relevant knowledge in real time. And again, I'm preaching to the choir to this audience, but that's certainly true, and they felt that the world was changing rapidly, and how millennials and other workers were consuming knowledge was changing rapidly, and that this was a good time to take a fresh approach to solving the KM problem. Fast forward to today. In 2019, we have 102 employees with offices in Philadelphia and San Francisco. We recently raised a $25 million Series B round led by Thrive Capital, who have invested in companies like GitHub and Slack and more. And that brings our total raise to about $38 million in venture funding. And we have hundreds of customers, including public companies like Shopify, Square, Yext, Autodesk, and emerging leaders such as Slack, Intercom, Spotify, TaskRabbit, BuzzFeed, and many, many more. So what is our mission? What Guru does is our core belief is that the knowledge you need to do your job should find you when you need it. And there are so many missing steps to this happening on an everyday basis, and those are really the gaps that Guru was built to solve. So what does our software do? Well, we do 3 things. One is we unify all of the knowledge across your enterprise. So think of all the silos where knowledge lives within your organization today, whether it's silos by department, silos by content management system, silos by region, or whatever else is stopping knowledge from being spread throughout your organization. And we unify all of those different silos, and we connect all of your teams with Guru. So this is not a department-specific software solution. This is not a region-specific software solution, and it lives everywhere, and it integrates with every solution that already exists within your company. But unification, as we know, is not the only thing that's needed. We also need to verify that the knowledge that exists is accurate, because without accurate knowledge, your users will lose trust, and that will reduce adoption of any system over time. So we verify and instill trust in the fact that all your knowledge is up to date and connected to the right subject matter experts. And then finally, in this working world that we're very rapidly moving toward, everybody's working inside the web browser, and everybody's working inside messaging apps and on the phone, and they're in so many different places. And the world needs a solution that can really empower people wherever they work. We use artificial intelligence to empower your teams by bringing them this trusted knowledge when and where they need it most. So we don't make employees go to another portal. We bring them knowledge right inside the web browser, or right inside a chat application, or wherever it is that they work. And the idea, again, is that we believe that an enterprise is made better when knowledge flows seamlessly across all teams, rather than being sequestered or siloed within separate teams. Okay, that was a bit on Guru. Now let me walk you through the top 3 knowledge management trends that we see, and these insights are based on what our customers are telling us as they use Guru and as they strive to become leaders in their own industries. The number 1 trend that we hear over and over and over again is this idea that the best search is no search. If you really take a long step back, I think most of us will see that searching is an activity that we've come to see as a necessary evil, but it really is, wastes a lot of time. Why can't information find us when we need it, rather than us having to go look for it? Why doesn't technology help us in this moment of need, rather than us having to go waste time in searching for this information? So I'm going to share with you two examples of how we see this trend playing out. One example is this idea in this feature set that we call AI Suggest. And AI Suggest eliminates the need to search. As you can see from this very, very simple illustration, imagine somebody is inside their email inbox, and whether you are a sales rep, for example, or a customer support rep, you are getting an email from somebody asking about your implementation guide. And now your typical process is that you would have to go search for this information. But now with Guru, we live with AI Suggest, we live right inside of your email, and we are reading this email that's coming into your inbox, and we're taking certain keywords and we're suggesting knowledge to you actively. That's the idea behind AI Suggest, is that you're no longer searching. We already know what you want to find, and we're going to go serve that up to you in real time. And so what you see here is this Guru button inside the Gmail inbox, and a user clicks on it, and immediately the first three options that pop up are relevant and specific to the question that the user has been asked. And this eliminates a whole lot of time, and especially in real time conversations when you want to respond very quickly, this is massively valuable, and our customers are using this to sort of eliminate the need to search. Now, AI Suggest, we just shared an example where it works on text that's on your screen and reading the text. The arguably even cooler thing is that it works when you're talking on a phone or talking on a teleconference. It converts your speech to text, and then it uses that text to go search Guru and serve up the right knowledge to you in real time. And again, as the speed of business continues to rise and customers demand more and more real-time answers, it certainly helps to have knowledge at your fingertips without you having to search at all, whether you're on the phone or whether you're in email or no matter where you work. And so these two examples are part of a larger trend of what we're seeing in search, which is really the death of search. And the idea is that the best search experience is no search. So that's trend number one. The second trend that we're seeing in knowledge management is that AI is really transforming customer support into a revenue generator. Historically, many of us know that customer support has been seen as a cost center and as a necessary evil, and not necessarily as a way to drive more revenue for your company. Well, as we move into a world that is where every business deal is more and more subscription-based, and you have to keep your customers happy over time, otherwise they can just leave you, making sure that your customers are successful and happy and are always aware of what your company is doing becomes more and more important. And the group within your company that's talking to your customers possibly the most is your customer support team. And what we're seeing is that team feeling more and more empowered to go drive revenue for their companies, not just handle tickets and control fires from spreading too far. One example that we're seeing is from one of our customers, Shopify, whose 2,000-person plus completely remote support team uses Guru and drives revenue growth with Guru. Now, Shopify empowers small business owners to build their online presences and to really sell online. And so every time one of their customers calls them, it's an opportunity for their support agent to understand more about that customer and how that customer can drive more value with Shopify. And that's exactly what Guru empowers them to do, is by putting knowledge at their fingertips. Every single one of their agents is very empowered to not just answer the question the customer came in with, but then immediately shift the tone of the conversation to understanding more about what the customer really needs and getting to the root causes of where the customer might have trouble, and really coaching them into becoming more successful customers of Shopify, which, as you guessed it, also leads to more revenue for Shopify. And they have ridden this really great business model to massive growth across their time as a public company now, and they're showing no signs of stopping. And the broader theme here is, knowledge, I think, historically has been seen as a category that enterprises, could invest in, but everybody's sort of been resigned to the fact that knowledge is going to be siloed forever. It is going to be out of date, and perhaps you can't solve those problems. And, that's why you'll never tie knowledge to revenue. Well, I think we see things very differently at Guru, and our customers see things very differently. In fact, on our homepage, we have this tracker that shows not only how many empower moments, which is every time somebody looks at knowledge inside Guru, have we had to date, but how much revenue does that really support, and how much annual revenue does that influence across the Guru customer community? And we primarily serve revenue teams across customer support, sales, marketing, and customer success. And those are customer-facing teams that really manage your company's revenue. And we are seeing a very, very clear connection between the level of empowerment and comfort that their employees have to how much revenue they're able to drive and how much growth they're able to have in a scalable and efficient way. So that's really trend number 2, is customer support. AI is transforming customer support into a revenue center, not just a cost center. Let me share with you our last trend that we're seeing, which is that AI will empower us all to do our best work. And we hear a lot about AI if you really think about it today. Much like we heard about the cloud 10 years ago, we're hearing so much about AI. Every vendor feels the need to talk about AI and what their strategy is. Every company is looking at it as a way to drive differentiation between themselves and their competitors. I believe that there's 4 flavors of AI that we see in the enterprise most frequently. The first flavor is this idea of deflection, which is, hey, let's use artificial intelligence to help our customers self-serve, and instead of having them talk to human beings, which is very expensive and costs us a lot of money, why don't we just have them go look at a website, and perhaps they can solve their problems that way, and we can deflect away the issues, and they will never come to us in the first place. And companies see that as a win. The second flavor is a slight tweak on that, which is this idea of bots, and the idea that when somebody comes to our website or somebody calls our customer support line, instead of having them talk to human beings, why don't we have them talk to bots? And we think bots are good enough now, so let's have them try to solve our customers' problems. And many of us who've been on the other side of an interaction with a bot, I think, can very clearly say from personal experience that this is not always the greatest idea. And yet companies are doing a lot of this. AI with bots gets a lot of mind share. And I see it as a missed opportunity to actually engage with customers, but many companies are doing stuff with bots. The third flavor is processing, which is this idea of instead of humans doing repetitive tasks, why don't we have AI process repetitive tasks and understand rules and get better over time. And that certainly has some value as well. The fourth flavor of AI, which I personally don't think gets nearly enough mind share, but I also believe that's where the value is in AI coaching human beings to get better at their jobs and to empower human beings to be the best version of themselves when they either talk to a customer or a prospective customer, or they are engaged in a moment that matters for their business. And if you look at all four flavors of AI in the enterprise, clearly the first 3 get a lot of mind share, but they're sort of designed around this idea of, hey, human beings don't have to do all this work. Let's use robots and other AI tools to go solve a lot of these problems, and we'll save ourselves a nice chunk of change as a company. But what we really believe at Guru is that the real AI opportunity is in empowering human beings and making us better. We believe in the value of a human-to-human interaction. We believe that support can drive revenue. We believe that an educated sales rep is going to be light years ahead of any bot or any sort of website in terms of educating a prospective customer. We believe that any knowledge worker today that is truly empowered with a coach that's by their side is going to outcompete knowledge workers that don't have the support by their side. And that's really where we see the real value of AI going forward in the future. And one example of that we see, again, from our customer base is, when we talk about coaching, you want a coach that's there with you every single day and is fighting right alongside you in the moments that matter. And what we see, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this chart measures what we call the DAU-MAU ratio, which is daily active users versus monthly active users. And usually in enterprise software, you'll see, if you're monthly active users, maybe 10% or 20% are using you daily. Only when you get to real consumer type applications like Netflix or Instagram do you see people really using it on a daily basis. And it's a very nice outcome that, we see ourselves as a coach to our customers, and our customers seem to agree because many of them use us on an everyday basis. 48% of our monthly active users use us daily. And almost nobody else in enterprise software gets those kinds of numbers. And we're very happy with that. And we also think that validates the idea that coaching AI is really where the opportunity is in the future. So that's what I have in terms of our top 3 trends. And if you'd like to learn more about Guru, you're welcome to request a demo at our website. And thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Sunny. And now for some questions from our viewers. We have one question here that's quite specific to you, Cameron, which is very simply, when is SAGA going to be available?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question. So we're finalizing the release date, and it will be available sometime in February. We've already have some customers who are using it in a beta test mode, but it should be generally available in February.
Okay. All right. David, we had a question for you about cloud computing. How should we think about the big public cloud players like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud?
Well, cloud computing brings a very complicated equation to machine learning and knowledge management, particularly as it applies to market research and competitive intelligence. A lot of the content that Northern Light processes for clients is extremely confidential, and some of our clients ban the use of public clouds for that content. Some of our clients ban the use of one particular cloud but would permit a different one. And so from the viewpoint of operating a knowledge management system, it does, you do have to think about the strategy for how you allocate processing across those. We basically do work with the Google Cloud some, and they have terrific open source software for managing and processing content, but we duplicate our processes on the Google Cloud and also in our own data centers, so that if a client has an objection to using a public cloud for security reasons, we are able to do it in our data centers, and if a client doesn't object to it, and if there's an advantage in using the cloud, we can do it. Do it in the cloud. It does impose that complexity, and you do have to be able to process the content wherever the client wants you to for that particular use case.
Okay. Is it usually security that's the issue?
It is. The thing about public clouds is there are third parties who are running applications, and that the cloud provider doesn't control and doesn't really know what they are. And so the concern is exactly that, security. They've gotten much better at it over the years, but there are serious concerns about that with many of our clients. I'd say today about half of our clients would not permit us to use a cloud solution for their primary market research. About half would, but they might pick a different one than another client. So it has to do with security and the fact that the applications running in the cloud are not under the control of the cloud provider, whereas in our data centers, the only thing that are running in the Northern Light data centers are stuff that we do. We're 100% sure about what's happening in our data center. No cloud provider can make that statement.
Okay, all right. Cameron, we have a question here that's, I think, really a clarification. The question is that you mentioned auto-tagging, and is that the same as document auto-classification?
It could be. It depends on your definition of those things. For us, auto-tagging is really creating tags inside the document. So if you're looking at all of the documents in a particular repository, we had an example recently where we had a customer who was working with a lot of technical information, wanted to look at sentiment analysis across the customer inquiries, and so we were tagging things like hot battery and cracked screen. So we're creating those as auto tags on top of the content so we could do analytics on those. So that it's not necessarily classifying the documents into a particular repository. It's more creating tags so we can do analytics on top of it.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you. We have another one here. Sunny's verification talks about up to date, but how is that determined? Old information may be very good despite its age. So Sunny, let me start with you. I think some of the rest of you may want to chime in on that one, but let's start with Sunny.
It's a great question, and I 100% agree that old definitely may be very good despite its age. The way our verification works is we allow users to nominate subject matter experts and set a verification interval, and they can set it for once a week or once a year. And the key really here is that anybody who's viewing this information or knowledge knows who the subject matter expert is, and their name would be visible, and also when this knowledge was last verified by that subject matter expert. So, for example, a corporate document could be years old, but as long as it's been verified recently enough and there's a clear SME associated with it, we believe that adds a lot of comfort to the person viewing the knowledge.
Okay. All right. Cameron, do you have?
I might have a comment to make on that. It's David from Northern Lights. I think it varies by industry. We have clients in life sciences where the information on patient experience goes back years, decades, and it's still valid. Diabetes is diabetes from one perspective. On the other hand, we have clients in information technology and financial services where the world changes every 18 months in those industries. And so information ages really rapidly. You have to tune the aging to the use case.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Cameron?
Yeah, no, I agree with the comments from the other speakers here. I mean, here at Accenture, obviously we have documents that go way back, and all of them are considered when we're looking at recommendations of content to other users. And as David just said, it depends on the industry. In the oil and gas industry, things don't change very quickly, and so we have experts there whose work from 20 years ago is still very relevant today, but as David said, in financial services, that's not quite the case.
Sure, yeah. We've talked about various industries. We have a question here. What do you see about the KM market in higher education? David, I don't know that you do much in that area.
We don't. I would point out that Roger Schenck, who is one of the pioneers in the AI world, when the robots rise up and kill us all and build a temple to their human creators, the statue in the center of it will be to Roger Schenck. And he initially felt that AI had really had its most powerful application in education, and he actually has spent the latter part of his career working in that area. So, I believe that there's a huge untapped potential there. But Northern Light is not exploiting it. Maybe I shouldn't be answering the question.
Sonny, what about you?
Sure, I'll take a quick swing at this. Higher education, as we know, is very different from a traditional business, and the stakeholders are very different. And, I think the challenge for KM in higher education is always about building the business case and prioritizing this initiative over the many others that any sort of higher education institution has. The only thing I would suggest on that front is, what are the outcomes of a higher education institution today? And given that knowledge is such a central part of any higher education institution, surely there are new metrics that we can come up with that will justify the case to really empower every single professor or employee, perhaps even students at any university.
Yeah, I can comment on that particular topic, and agree that historically that higher education institutions were not necessarily investing in this area, but in the last 12 months we've been involved in 3 KM projects with large universities in the US. So the business case has definitely been made in those areas, and it's on the administrative side as well as the academic side. So I'll be happy to speak to the person who has submitted that question and share our implementation experience with some of your peers.
Oh, very good, very good, very good. Sunny, here's an open-ended question for you. What do you think is the future of AI in the enterprise?
Sure. I think the trend we really see, and again, I talked about coaching AI. The public has had this fascination with robots taking over human jobs and human livelihoods for a long time. But when you really, when you let the dust settle, I think we'll all find that the future of AI is really an AI, coaching humans and empowering humans to be our best selves at work and to do our best work. And that's what we hear from our customers as a real opportunity, and I strongly believe that'll continue to be the case.
Okay. Coaching, Cameron, is that what you would say?
I'd say it's one of the things that is going to be important, but here at Accenture we have an applied intelligence group whose role it is to take AI technologies defined as, in my group, natural language processing, search, and machine learning, and build different applications. So I think when you combine those technologies, there's a whole host of things that can be done, and we have many use cases that are quite diverse that would be considered as AI in the workplace.
David?
Well, I think on a practical level, the immediate challenge is to find problems that AI and machine learning, almost all practitioners, by the way, prefer the term machine learning over AI, but that AI and machine learning can immediately solve and add value to. Just today, next month, what are the problems that we can add value to in the immediate future? And that's the task of making it widely adopted. I think longer term, we're all going to be surrounded by a personal staff of AI assistants, helping us do more and do it better and do it quicker and do it with less work for us. And I personally can't wait for that.
Well, we'll check back with all of you in 10 years or so and see how the robots are doing. Yes, indeed.
Okay, super.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions today, and we apologize that we were unable to get to all of your questions. But as I stated earlier, all questions will be answered via email. And so I would like to thank our speakers for today, Cameron Kahn, Managing Director of Search and Content Analytics, Accenture Applied Intelligence, David Cease, Chief Executive Officer, Northern Light Group, Sunny Manivasan, VP of Marketing, Guru. If you would like to review this event or send it to a colleague, please use the same URL that you used for today's event. It will be archived for 90 days. Plus, you will receive an email tomorrow with the URL to view the archive within approximately 24 hours. And just for participating in today's event, you could win this $100 Amex card. The winner will be announced on January 31st, and we will reach out via email if you are selected as this month's winner. So, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's webcast. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect. Speakers, please stand by for your post-conference.